up? I'm Lance.
And I'm Jeremy.
And we are Hard to Master, where we take a look at games that are hard to master, such as
Nova Roma by Half a Kingdom Games and distributed by 25th Century Games.
Before we get into Nova Roma, first I want to talk to you guys about Into the AM. Into the AM is a men's clothing line who were kind enough to send me a few of their shirts to check out and wear in some of these videos, including the one that I'm wearing right now. They make some really fantastic graphic tees. They make tops, bottoms, every single article of clothing that you can think of for men. They have basic tees, which is just the clean, basic look with their logo on the front of it. You'll see me wearing some of their shirts in these videos that are coming out here recently, and I really like the quality and the cut and the feel of these shirts. Check out the link down below in the description of this video, as it will save you 10% using our special code LOVETOHATE when you click on that link and go to their website and buy something off their website. Now, let's get into Nova Roma. So Nova Roma is a Euro game in which you are going to be placing workers out here in this 4x4 grid, action selection style, taking different actions across the board, all spectrums of the board here. You're going to have several different things you can be doing throughout the course of this game. You'll be taking 30 actions over the course of 5 rounds. And essentially, you want to try to get the most points in this game, advancing along tracks and fulfilling contracts, all sorts of things going on in this particular game. Jeremy's going to briefly explain to you what are some of the things you'll be doing in this game, and then we'll share our thoughts on this one. So Jeremy, what do we got going on here with Nova Roma?
Yeah, first off, you'll recognize this artwork from the Micho, amazing illustrator that has done the artwork for this. It is designed by Stan Kordonsky. This is a game where the first player, and they'll have this token at the beginning of the game, will flip over the top of the Emperor tiles, and you'll notice that I do have it already placed on one of the spaces that it would have a chance to be at. Now, why does that need to be there? Well, this game is about placing your meeples onto this grid to take 2 actions. Now, the Emperor will block 1 space for 2 different actions, but the benefit is it counts for anyone's meeple as far as power, because I'm going to place one depending on what actions I have. Now, I have a player board here and I have a mosaic board, and the mosaic board is a way that I can place these tokens here to gain in-game points, but if I place on the top row, I can also gain immediate benefit as far as a resource. You'll check your resources on the board, and you'll notice I do have some upgraded pieces, and they will slide up and down. One thing I don't have out are the coins, but you will have coins also in the game, which you will use for different actions and resource management. So, you also have this influence tracker here, which you can trade influence to take the first player marker if you're taking said action. And you can also use it as a wild. Maybe people have blocked the space you want to go to, and you can use influence to the power of your workers at that location to gain a wild action where you wanted to take, the action that you want to take. You also have this estate area here, which you can place, and you start with 1 artisan, but you can place it out to gain resources in a similar grid-like idea. And you'll be placing these estate tiles to either trigger one-time actions, place animals for an in-game set collection scoring, or to gain additional benefits by placing at the estate. Now, let's just start up here at the top. We'll go around the board to make it easy. Because each section of the board is kind of like its own little mechanic. And so if I placed here with the ship location, well, I'm going to be able to complete a ship order and move my ships around. Now, it's based on the power, and right now you'll notice I have a power of 1. So I could use a horse and a coin, or a wheat and a wine to complete that order. Now, later, if I have either the Emperor there in future rounds or another one of my workers, I'd be able to do 2 or more power or 3 or more power, which maybe would give me, like this one, I just do 1 wine. Less cheaper than doing the other cards. But in addition to that, having more workers there will let you move your ship more spaces. Because once I complete that order, it would come over here. Let's say I did this one, spending my horse and the coin that's in the box, and I would put this ship order here. Now, you'll notice on my mosaic board, I want to get 2 shipping orders completed so I can place one of these. And you can only place one of these per turn on your board. And later in the game, if I can get 6 of those, well, I can get a lot of points, 5 points. Now, if you complete diagonals or columns or rows, you're going to get benefits at the end of the game or immediate, depending on which row or column you complete.
It is important to note that this is randomized and it's going to be different for every player.
Yeah, there are several extra tiles here that each player will have. 1 orange or level 3, a yellow level 2, and a green level 1. And they'll have to do with each different thing of the board. I'm either moving my ship, completing orders, I'm building over here in the building section, I'm moving up the hippodrome or the racetrack, things like that, or even hiring people into my network, essentially, to allow me to have different benefits or in-game benefits. Now, like I said, if I only had 1 power, I have to choose. And whenever I move, if I pass it, I would still gain the ability. So let's say I go here to get the coin back from what I spent. Well, these would slide down, and we would flip the new card, and that would be half of my turn. Now, if we look, I have the hippodrome, the racetrack that I can also perform. And that action is going to be a power of 2. Well, I can move any one of these racetracks. Well, I want to probably move blue so I can be in the lead because the first one there is in the lead. But I could also, instead of planning to place my artisan on my board, I could spin one time to move 1 additional. Well, that wouldn't be bad, but I already used my horse. So if I didn't use my horse and I'd planned that better, then I could do that, but I could still spin it to move one of these, knowing that orange is going to be the next one, because the next round is face up, and whoever's furthest, and you must move, someone has to move for that to trigger, they will get this carriage to go, and it'll be 3 points at the end of the game. But when you move on these spaces, you can either take another in-game goal token, or you could just move up 1 influence. Now, if I didn't do those actions, and maybe I went to the building location, and I went here, so I can talk about 2 different actions. Well, over here at the building, I'm going to complete one of these orders, spending one of the things. Well, that stinks that I don't really have what I need. Unless I didn't use my artisan, then I'd gain that coin, so I could do this one. Well, it's expensive, but it's going to let me place 3. And if I can place these 3 here, guess what? I'm moving that ship 1 more space, gaining. So I'm kind of chaining different things.
Right.
And that would go here. Not only would it give me 3 points at the end of the game, but if I have majority scoring, I'm going to score that as well. Now, like I said, I would get to move a ship if I did that because I'm surrounding this tile. These tiles are randomized at the beginning of the game, and there are more in the box. And whenever one is completely surrounded, like this would be the hardest one to surround, but whatever's completely surrounded, anybody that has contributed at least 1 cube will get that benefit, which for this instance would be a horse or a wheat and so forth.
Yeah, like something like that.
And it is much harder to get to B and C because you've got to have 2 or 3 power. Now, if the Emperor's there, that's great. But depending on how many players, it could fill up and it might be difficult for you to do that.
Yeah.
Now, I've talked about these 3. Let's talk about hiring people. Now, first thing is I'm going to look at my power, and I can gain cards from the row or the deck, top of the deck, based on how much my power is. They'll go in my hand. I do have a hand limit of 6. So I cannot have more than 6 cards. Now after that, I look at my power, and it's going to cost me 2 coins if I have 1 power, 1 coin if I have 2 power there, but if I can have 3 power there, it's free. And some of these people that you put in front of you will let you act as if you have more, like this guy. If I get this engineer 1 time per round, he's going to allow me to tap him or flip him. But whenever I go build, that'd be a great one if I want to build a bunch because of my board here, because now I can build as 2 just by placing that first person. If the Emperor's there, well, I'm placing in C every time, which can be really powerful because other people might have a hard time getting there. Now, there's also the infinity symbol ones, which are always active. Anytime I take this action, which we'll talk about in a second, I gain a coin. Or there's the in-game cards, which this is a really great one if you're going to the hippodrome. I scored like 8 points off of it last game, is because every 2 movement on the track, I'm going to gain a point. So if you go heavy into that, you can gain a lot of points. But there are one-time, ongoing, and end-of-game cards. And some of your things like this, your mosaic tiles will say have 6 place. Now, the first 4, you don't have to pay any influence, but the first 3, the 4th and on, up to 7, so you can have a max of 7 hired. Well, every one from the 4th on is going to cost you an influence, and you do start with 1 at the beginning of the game. Now, if we come over here, and let's just do these 2, since we're just going in order, we have this area here. What this area is going to let me do is it's going to let me either gain, based on the power, I can either gain, spending a week, gaining an artisan. But if I already have an artisan or I have multiple power there, I could then place this artisan onto my estate board, gaining the cross-grid bonuses, including any that I may have placed earlier. So if I place that there earlier in the game and I place this on top, well, I'm getting a stone every time I do that. Those tiles will stay face up, and these people will come back to your board as long as you don't have more than 3. Now, when you spend them for building and moving up the track, they do not come back. They're going to be gone into the supply. And you can't have more than 3 at the end of your turn. If you do, they're getting expelled anyway, so you may as well use them to build or to do the track. Now, the next action is, well, we'll just do this. The Emperor here is going to let you take the first player token. Now, if you're first player, you can't take it on your first action turn of placement, but on the second and third, you could take it, and when that happens, you flip it over. Now, it says 2 points because at the end of the game, if you have this, it's worth 2 points. You can also spend an influence, like we said, to maybe all of the hippodrome have been filled, and I have 1 power there. I can spend 1 influence if I have to take 1 influence action here of the hippodrome, but I could also spend an artisan if I had one to do that. I'm basically doing that action at a power of 1. Now, the last 2 actions are to come over here to the estate area, gaining a tile. Now, you'll notice these X's on some spaces. That's cleanup at the end of the round. You would discard those. Now, these will all replenish. This one, however, is a specialty tile, and only 1 will be available in each round, so there's only 5 here. There are more in the box, but I only put out the amount. So, if I buy these ongoing abilities, this is an animal. If I place an animal, it's going to give me points. And there is a specialty animal that has 2 paw prints on it. But if you can get 3 of those, that's 9 points. If you get more than 3, well, you're getting more points. This specialty tile here tells you that when you place it on your board, you're going to have to place, so you want to put it in a good spot that you're going to trigger, because when I place an artisan on it, I do a one-time activation of it. And this one, for instance, I don't pay for the employee that I hire. I just place them into my area, and then this would flip over. It's still able to go to, but it's no longer able to trigger that specialty ability, and it does cost you a wine to take this tile. Now, one thing we didn't say with the animals is you can't place on the animals unless you have a specific card called the Animal Trainer, which you can then place on it. Otherwise, they just kind of clog your board up to get those in-game points.
Yep.
And the last action is trading. You're going to gain 1 point per power. So right now I'd gain 2 coins because the Emperor is there. If you have a bunch of cards, you can discard 2 as many times as you want to gain a coin for each of those pairs. And then the last thing is you could spend coins as much as you want to gain resources on your board.
Yep.
That's all the actions. Like I said, we went over the board stuff as we went in the mosaic tiles. You will keep your building and your ship cards here so that you can count them as you go. And again, these will not have scoring on them. All your scoring's up here. And you'll notice as you get here, well, that's 3 points. If I get this ship going as well, I'm getting more points and triggering bonuses. First one that gets here goes up to the top. Second one that gets up here goes here. All other ships are allowed to go to the 10 spot for getting there. But That's how you play Nova Roma. Real quick, solo, because I will tell you real quick, solo is really easy to manage. After I flip the Emperor tile, I would flip another one, and based on where that is, I'm going to place 2 of these red guys out. Now, if I can't place, let's say that I had placed there earlier, these are already out, and I can't place there. It's blocked, so they would gain another point. And easy is 20, medium or normal is 30, and then hard is 40 points. And you're essentially trying to block them out because their hippodrome will be moved along 2 spaces, and then whichever one is the active one will get an additional bump. Over here, they will start on both 3 spaces for ships, and they're going to move every round. Each ship's going to move one. You're going to have these spaces blocked by a neutral player color. Or no, you'll have them blocked by their player color. And then you will always discard the farthest left card, and they will save those for the end, and they will get points for that. They will also get points based on the in-game mosaic tiles that you have not placed on those spots. Whatever spots are open, they will gain those. And you'll essentially do 5 rounds like that, continuing to move them up the different things, gaining points if they were supposed to place where you are. At the end, you will see how many points, but you'll still discard. But other than that, after every placement, you're going to place more. So let's say they went here and I went here. Well, then before I take my next turn, I'm going to place 2 more. So right here and here, and they're going to clog the board up just like
a multiplayer game.
Yeah, so let's say I went there. See if I can guess where they're going to be. Nope. But you can see how now, on my last placement, I almost got blocked out of that. If I would have already taken that this turn, and I wanted to do it again, I wouldn't be able to do it because that had already been played. Just like in a multiplayer game, you would have that kind of tension.
And on this note right here about this grid, I think it's important to understand that each player has 3 meeples that they are going to be placing out here, but you only place 1 at a time.
Each turn, yeah.
Each turn. And that earns you those 2 actions, the cross actions that we've been talking about, and you do both of those actions on your turn when you place your meeple. And if you don't do one of the actions, because maybe you just can't do it, you get 1 coin as like a consolation prize, right? And obviously, you can't go somewhere where somebody's already placed a meeple, so this grid does fill up and it gets blocked out pretty quickly, especially in the later turns of a round.
And these will be randomized, and we'll talk about that more in our thoughts, but these will get randomized, and so every time you play, pretty much it's going to be a little different each time, but most times I've played, it's been vastly different, and it will gear you based on cards, and you can draft your starting hand and different things. You may be going for different things, especially in a multiplayer game, but in solo, it's a little different, but you are still trying to block and outdo their score, basically.
So let's get into our thoughts on this one, and we'll share our scores at the end of the video. I'll start first by letting you guys know that I didn't know what I was going to think about this game going into it. It's one of those games where it has a ton of mechanics at play, and at times those kind of games can sort of seem like a mishmash of a bunch of different stuff thrown together, and sometimes they work, and then sometimes it just sort of feels like a disconjointed mess. I have experienced that before in these kind of games. I did not experience that with this particular game. I thought everything flowed pretty well, and I really enjoyed this 4x4 grid placing and trying to use the Emperor to boost up your effects of your turns, but then there's a lot of competition for trying to get the best spots out here, so you're constantly watching what everybody else is going to be doing and trying to guess. I see you need 1 more spot on the shipping to get the best points, so you're probably going to go for shipping, so I'm going to work around that, right? Like that whole concept, you really have that play out in this 4x4 grid, so I absolutely love how this connects to all of the actions that you're doing, and they're all like these little mini games. You've got track progressions, you've got some area majority. You've got some tableau building and then a grid. You've got this grid and you've got, your mini grid on your own player board. It's all interesting how these little mini games interact with this 4x4 grid. And even though it's probably a medium heavy kind of game, if you understand all the mini games, it's not a very complicated game to understand, I don't feel like. I feel like I had a pretty good understanding of this game just reading through the rule book. Like, I didn't even need a full playthrough to be like, oh yeah, I understand this. So I don't think it's a really hard teach at all. You just got to understand the different mini games and then you're golden. And man, this is a really fun game. I really, really enjoy this one. Like I said at the beginning, I didn't know what I was going to, get out of this particular game, and I'm so glad that it is an enjoyable experience that isn't disconjointed. Everything flows through this 4x4 grid, and that's a really cool experience. What'd you think on this one?
Yeah, I really like this game as well. I've even played it, like I said, a few times solo and normal. I didn't play easy, normal, and hard. And the first time I played it solo, and even multiplayer, I was figuring things out, but I knew what I was doing and beat the solo, but then it was a lot closer. But then the next time I played solo, I knew what I was trying to do and manage, and then your mosaic board's also going to guide your strategy. So this is my favorite part, is the grid and how that's going to switch it up and make you kind of feel like you're going to have to do things you don't want to at times to get the boosted benefit of the others because of where they line up. But the mosaic board will also change your strategy quite a bit because, this one I have in front of me doesn't have that much hippodrome. But the last game I played, it was 10 hippodrome in my cards. I had this one and I had another one that I drafted. And when I drafted the card like this one, that was for the hippodrome to give me an extra power there. And I had this in my hand. I was like, I want this. I was like, I want both of these. But they didn't know what I had taken, passed this around, and it came back to me. And I was like, yes, this is what I wanted.
Nice.
And I have these two to work with. And so I had 10, by the second round, I had 10 hippodrome, easy.
Yeah.
And no one was taking it. I demolished the hippodrome. If I get 8 points off this card, that's 16 movement. That's a lot of hippodrome in 5 turns. So these, depending on what cards you can find and so that the cards and coming out, that can be, luck based, and even with the shipping market and everything can be luck based, but you may have to, spend a turn to go trade or find some kind of maybe I want to build, but I need to get here so I can get 2 resources to do that, or I can move the hippodrome that way. You got to kind of make things work together and plan out what you're going to do, because people are going to take the actions you want to do. I mean, you're wanting to capitalize on 2 actions, but that's probably going to get taken. So which one do you have to do this turn, and which one can wait? And don't be afraid to use the wild, even if someone has taken the first player token, because you can't take it from them after they've taken it. But maybe I want to do, I want
the action you want to do.
I got to do the action now so I can get that, and it's better to do that than to come trade at that time. So, and if you can complete a row or a column, you're probably getting a coin and influence, which you could use. Or if you just use the top ones sparingly to gain that resource you need. So, this can help dictate and change between these 2 things. Now, the tiles and other things that are on the board are, because there's more than just 5 of these as well. So you could have a game where 3 or 4 of them are orange. Well, that may dictate, if you haven't been moving orange, you were going heavy and blue and everything else is orange coming out and someone else is there. You may have to neglect that if your mosaic board is not tied to it. But there's a lot of things that you can do in the game and adjust when people take where you want to go. That would be most optimal. You just have to find a way to optimize the opportunities you have left. But I really like I said, I really like this aspect of it. I think this is my favorite part of the game is right here, because it's going to be very different between these two things. I mean, nothing else on the board changes too much. You have different tiles that come out. You're going to have different people, different bonuses. And I haven't really gone super heavy in building yet. So nothing I've had geared me heavy into that.
It's funny you say that, because one of the things I wanted to mention in this video is that I think a big part of the strategy in this game is figuring out what are the different mini games that you're really going to pour yourself into. Like Jeremy talked about the Hippodrome, but then that means you're probably going to, not go so far into 1, 2 different types. Like in my particular games, I've not done a whole lot of this, putting tiles out on my estate. Like that's just not one I've done too much of. But I did go heavy in this. I did go heavy in that. Like, you've got to find the ones that you're going to pour yourself into. You don't want to spread yourself thin in this game because you just won't get enough points in any one of them. You've got to really pour yourself in and then just dabble in the other ones and find those little connections like Jeremy's talking about that gets you the bonuses and the ones that you've really been putting your time into, because maybe you can't go into that anymore. There's no more options for it on the grid. So I got to do the one that I've not been doing too much, but I want to do it in the way that gets me that bonus so that I could go back into it. It's got that comboing effect in this game.
You want to go here at least enough to get your tokens, because you really need to maximize.
That's where you're going to get a ton of points, yeah.
You're going to get, probably 30 points or so just off of here if you place all 7 of them.
And another thing real quick about the scoring, too, that I really like about this game is that like 99% of the points are all in-game points in this game. You don't really keep track of points during the course of the game, so it's a mystery as to who's doing well, and I love that aspect because you're having to treat every player with the same level of attention and respect for the most part.
You can still have an idea, because I can tell who's getting these, I can tell who's moving up and who got the 14, or I can tell who's majority. Now they're going to have
those things,
1, 2, or 3 point differences in the cards, but you can.
But as far as like
kind of track, but
as far as like
definitive,
right? Exactly. You can't pinpoint exactly where anybody's going to be on score wise,
unless you're Rain Man, or you have a really good memory.
Yeah. Like. Let's talk about cons. Are there any cons that you have with the game? None. It's a perfect game.
I mean, for me, I already know what yours is, and I personally don't find that to be a con in the game, because there are options for you to take, and you can take that option or you can negate it. Like I've said on Instagram, there's still half the year left, but this has a really good shot to make the top 10.
Yeah,
I don't know what else is coming. I know other games that are coming, and if they get delivered by then, they've got strong chances too. But this, I'm gonna think of something that I think might be the, like I said, I think maybe just like I already said, you're gonna get lucky cards that are gonna come out.
Yeah. Somebody might get the exact, like you were talking about, the exact arrangement of cards that they need to deploy their strategy that works with their mosaic. I mean, like that could happen.
There's luck in the cards that come out.
Yeah,
it's there. Does it negate everything about the game? No. I think one thing that came up in the last game that was driving me nuts was someone placed their meeple and started to do their actions, and then wanted to change your meeple so that they didn't trigger anything else. I'm like, but still, the game is you place your meeple. That's order of opportunity of actions. Is I place my meeple first, then I take said actions. I can't adjust after I start moving and getting stuff. And so, not that that's in the rules, but someone may try to do that. But once it's placed, that's step 1. Step 2 is to take said action. Even if that spot's open, you can't adjust to it because you've already started to maybe see a card. Even if you're taking the imp action to do it again, you're in step 2 of the action, so you can't change it. But between that and, there's luck of tiles that come out too in the game, because I may want the animals and only one person sees them. One thing, a negative from our first game that I will point out here is the artwork. I love the Micho what he did here, but this right here, I didn't see the horses because it was so brown here. I didn't notice that. I thought it was you stop here because there's no circle, so you stop here and you get the 5 points. But then into the game, I start looking at this because I know someone's going to take the action, so I look closer and I see that, oh, no, those two are saying you come on top of here. So as far as just a design issue is just this right here. If there would have been some kind of silhouette underneath instead of this banner, or these were more prominent, but that's
a graphic design.
That's a graphic thing that I had with it. And then, like I said, there's lucky cards, or someone may place and then move. But as far as the gameplay itself, I mean, it's fun. I'm gonna be geared. Essentially, if I want to do the best I can and optimize it, I'm going to be geared towards different ways. Even in solo, you're using these tiles. These people are blocking you, and it can really suck at times. And even if you block them, well, you're giving them points. And so,
I'll share with you guys what my con is. And mind you, I'm with Jeremy on this, that I think this is a top 10 potential game. So I really, really enjoy this game. And so for me to even mention this con does not in any way make this game a game that I wouldn't ever want to play. I would want to play this anytime I had the opportunity to. But it really boils down to this right here. And that is buying out the first player marker. And the way that works, I know Jeremy talked about it, but I just want to go over again real quick. Whoever has first player, their first turn, they cannot take the first player again for the next round. They have to give everybody else an opportunity to do it, and then if it comes back around to them, then they can do that on their second action. But everybody else could do it on their first action. So in theory, if you're the last player, if you're the last player in the first round, especially in a 4-player game, in theory, the second player could do it on their first action, so you're not getting the opportunity to do it. Neither is the third player. And then in the next round, the same thing could happen again. So in theory, it could prevent you from having an opportunity to get the first player way late into the game. And then when it finally is an opportunity for you to do it, you have to do it. Otherwise, somebody else could do it, and then you may never get it throughout the course of the game. So it really presses the last player at the beginning of a game to really have to pay attention to this and dedicate some of their strategy to having to do that, whereas some of the other players may not have to do that as much. And it's not anything that breaks the game. It's just something that I would prefer it not to even be a part of the game and just simply have this thing rotate around.
But it does.
Because this is such a huge factor of the game and getting blocked out and losing out on the Emperor's ability, because there's only going to be 3 spots on either side. So you could definitely get blocked out of a complete action if you're the last player in a 4-player game. And that stinks. That really stinks. And
but it does pass. If no one goes and buys it, then it does pass. So it can pass, and when it does pass because nobody went there, then your opportunity bumps up. And I will tell you, in a 3-player game, I've been where I started the game first. It passed because nobody took it. Then they kept it, and I was last the whole game, and I don't think
it's as big of an issue in lower player games. I think it's the biggest issue in a 4-player game, because that's when you get blocked out.
And I think that's when you have to go, because say I do it the first time, well, now I've got an extra person there. So I could do a wild action twice. Yeah. And that will line up with 4 actions.
You just better have influence.
I think you just have to choose because even if no one takes it, you're gonna be third next round. Yeah. So you would still have that choice. I think you have that option. Is it more difficult and tighter in a 4-player game? Yes. But so far, everybody we play with enjoyed it better with a 4-player game because it's tighter, and the scores will be much closer, because in a 4-player game, you're gonna have probably 2 people going for at least one same region, whereas you'll still have that in a 3-player game, but with a 3-player game, one person can be more open in one area because the other 2 people are battling for specific things. And then one person can go heavy in placing cards, two people are battling it kind of over here, two people are battling it kind of over here, two people, and one person's just doing whatever they want over there and just owning and getting 7, 13, 18
right.
plus the cards. You can get a good 30 points in building, but I will tell you, even in a 3-player game where I was last every round, I think I won by 20 points. So you can still outdo that. Yes, your spots are going to get blocked because you're going last, but you just have to play into your strategy. But in a 4-player game, more people will be fighting for the areas, more people will be fighting for the grid. So it is more important, but that's when you have to, even in our 4-player game, that's when I went and spin it to take it, because you have to.
Yeah. Let's get to our scores on this one real quick. I'll go first and say, I've raved about this game, and like I already said, it's definitely one that I would play anytime. You bring this to game night. I see this at a con. I want to teach people how to play it. That's how much I like this game. It's just a blast. It's a lot of fun, and I think from what I've seen, the people who play it mostly really enjoy it. So for me, that's going to be an 8.5. I really, really like this one. This is bound to be in my top 10. I'm kind of with Jeremy. It's got to see what else happens for the rest of this year, but the way it is right now, this is going to be up there, right up there with the best. So 8.5 for me. Where's it coming in at for you?
And this is my favorite part, right there, and the way it changes up. I mean, I'm 8 1/4, 8.25.
Wow, we're going to the thousandths.
I mean, that's the hundredths.
Is it?
8.25.
Thought it was
tenths, hundredths.
Tenths, hundredths. Yeah, you're right. Hundredths. I'm not a math major.
Yeah, I mean, it's somewhere in there. I think it has a lot of potential, but I played it. I guess I played it twice solo, so I have solos. I'm doing more, but it's not really. It takes. I've gotten the setup down pretty quick, so setup's not too long. It does take about an hour solo. But it's a puzzle where I'm trying to get more points, and that's not usually my favorite solo, but I do enjoy the solo with this. I do enjoy multiplayer. I like the tighter game, I think, with 4 better, just because, like I said, one person can have a little easier time and run away if they're playing a little bit better, whereas in a 4-player game, it's going to be tighter in the score, and you're going to have those harder decisions in the grid on where you want to move, and everybody's going to be a lot closer in the score. But I think an 8.25 is pretty strong and still has a good chance to make the top 10 by the end of the year. I mean, it's a year of expansion, so we'll see what other games that we might have done previews for, if they deliver, or if we're just looking at what's come out. So.
Well, there you have it. That's our thoughts here on Nova Roma from 25th Century Games. Leave us some comments down below. Let us know what you think about Nova Roma, what you think about 25th Century Games. And again, while you're down there, make sure to check out the link to Into the AM. If you like this video, please, please, please hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon to be notified of all of our great new content. I'm Lance.
I'm Jeremy.
And we are Hard to Master, where we take a look at games that are hard to master. We'll catch you next time.
See ya.